Hi, welcome to the next section of this activity pack where we are going to start creating our model within Scratch. So if you've not used Scratch before, it's a free online program that you can use. So if you go online to scratch.mit.edu, it will take you to this website here. And then to start your own program, you just go to Create up here and it will load a new project for you. So once you get onto the screen here, it does have a short tutorial that you can watch, or if not, you can just choose to close that there. And then this is where we're going to be creating the model of our solar system. So if you're new to Scratch, I'll just quickly show you where things are. So these blocks over here are the different code blocks. So there's different types of code blocks. You've got motion, which is movements and things. Looks, so the appearance of the characters and objects that you create within Scratch. You can have sounds within your program as well. Events, so when things should happen. So for example, when the program should start and when different actions should happen. And then controls, if you want the characters to wait or repeat an action, the controls are there. There's other options there as well, so like sensing, if you want them to the different objects to interact with each other, but today we're mainly going to be using these top few up here. When you do want to write a code, this is the section here, this big section in the middle is where you will be building your code. So you just click on the block you want and drag it into the middle, and then we want the pieces to click together like so, and the program runs from top to bottom. So that's how we start to create a program in this space here, and then this box up here will show you what you have created. So at the moment this has this sprite here, so within Scratch characters or objects are called sprites, and the cat is the default sprite, but we won't be needing the cat today for our solar system, so to get rid of it you can just click on the bin there. And what we do want to do is create our own sprites. So to do that, if you go down to this section here where it says choose a sprite and just hover your mouse over it, and then you need to go up to paint because we want to create our own today. So when you do that, it will take you to the costume section, and this is where you can create the sun and all of the planets that we need in our solar system. So I'm going to start with the sun. So first of all, I'm going to use this handy circle tool here to save drawing it by freehand. And you just click and drag and you can make your circle however big you would like. Just be aware that you will need to fit in the sun and 8 planets, so try not to make them all too big. So there's my sun there, and if I want to change the colour you can go up to where it says fill up here and you get the options to change colour. So I'm going to take this over here and make it a bit more yellow, and then you can make it brighter and darker. So there we go. Now it's important with your sprite, with your sun, because it's at the centre of our solar system, we want it to be right at the centre of our code over here. So when you come back over to here, you can change the name of your sprite. So I'm going to change this one to sun, and then I'm going to tell it to be at 0, 0 coordinates. And that puts it right in the centre of the solar system. So for the sun, that's really important that you get the coordinates in there. Okay, I'm then going to start building my planets. So again, you just go to choose a sprite, move up to there, and then you will get this same thing again. So the first one I'm going to make is Mercury. So I'm going to use the circle again, and Mercury is the smallest planet, so I'm just going to keep it nice and small. It's important with your planets that they are as close to the centre of this space as possible, so that when you program them to move, they move in a predictable way. So Mercury is a small rocky planet, so I'm going to try and find a more grey colour. So if I go a bit darker, you can find a greyish colour. Here we go. So there's my Mercury there. With the planets, we're going to be programming them to tell them how far away from the sun they should be, so it doesn't really matter where they are. You can place them where you like to start with, because once you've programmed the planets, they will automatically go to how far from the sun they should be. We're going to tell them the distance they need to be in a little while. So you can do this again over here. You can change the name. So I'll change that to Mercury, and there we go. And again, you can create all of the different planets. So there's 8 planets to create within here, so it's the same every time. Just go to choose a sprite paint, and then you can create your planets, and you can make them as detailed as you like. So if you want to create Earth, for example, you can create the circle for Earth slightly bigger than Mercury, and you can give it the colour that you want. So I'm going to say that Earth has got blue on it because of the sea, but then if I want to make it look a little bit like Earth, you can get a paintbrush with another colour, so I can get some green, and you can paint some land on there as well. So it's up to you, you can make them as detailed as you like. As I say, just make sure that they're as close to the centre as possible, so that they move in the right way. Here we go. So creating your planets. Once you've created all 8, we are then going to be adding a background. So you can create all of your planets, and then if you want to add a background as well, if you go here to choose a backdrop and just click on that, it will give you some options for a backdrop, and you can click on space and find the one that you prefer. So I'm just going to put it in the stars there. So there we go. And you can add all of your 8 planets there. Once you have created all of your planets, you will need to program them. So to program them, I'm going to go back to code. So rather than costumes at the top here, I'm going to go back to code, and I'm going to start with Mercury. So I'm going to do Mercury as the example, and then you can use that code to help you code all of the other planets that you've created. So to start with, as I mentioned before, we're going to need to start with an event, and we're going to tell the program to start when the green flag is clicked. So that's this green flag here. So when we press on that later on, that's when Mercury will start to do whatever we code it to do. So I'm going to tell it to start when we press the green flag. I'm then going to go to the control, and I'm going to find what we call a loop. Now this is a forever loop, this one here. And the reason we use a loop is because we're telling whatever actions we put within there will repeat over and over again. So it means that we can tell Mercury to loop around the sun, and then it will continue looping around the sun forever and ever until we stop the program with the red stop button there. So that's my forever loop. So anything that I want to repeat needs to go inside this gap here, and the next blocks we're going to use are going to be movement blocks. So I'm going to first tell Mercury that it needs to go towards the sun. Okay, so go to the sun. That's telling the planet, the sprite, that it's the sun that it's going to be travelling around. Okay, the sun is at the centre. So it'll start off by saying go to random position, but you can change that to in any of your other sprites. So in this case, I'm going to change that to the sun. So whatever you've named your sun, that's what you will change that to with that drop-down menu there. You then need to tell your planet that it's going to be turning around. So I'm going to use this turn block here, and again it's going inside that loop underneath. You can see how these all connect together. Now on our worksheets we had written down the speeds that we wanted our planets to travel. So from doing the sum, 365 divided by 88, which is how many days it takes Mercury to travel around the sun, I got the answer of 4.15. So in here I'm going to type 4.15. So that's telling it how fast it's going to be turning. Okay, and as I mentioned before, this is relative to the Earth, so it'll be travelling about 4 times faster than the Earth around the sun. We then need to tell it how far away from the sun it should be, and we're going to do that using a move block, move steps. So for Mercury I'm going to start with 55 steps away from the sun, and then what you will need to do as you create this code for all of your other planets, you will need to add onto this. This will need to be a bigger amount because it needs to be further away from the sun, more steps away from the sun if you like. So this is it, this is my code for Mercury. So when I press the green flag now, we should see Mercury travelling around the sun. And it's fairly close to the sun because I've told it to move at 55 steps there. So if we then want to program the other planets, I would suggest if you add on about 15 or 20 to each one every time as you go further from the sun in terms of how many steps. And then what you'll be able to do is when you do model the whole thing later on, when you run it later on, you'll be able to make any adjustments there. If two planets are too close together, you can increase or decrease the amount of steps as necessary. So that's the code that you need for your planets. So what you'll need to do is create all of your planets as we showed before, choosing a sprite and going to paint, create all 8 of the planets, and then you use this code for each of the planets, but changing the degrees and distances necessary. So the turn however many degrees, that number there needs to be the speed of your planet that we calculated earlier, and that number there is the distance away from the sun. So it needs to increase with each planet as you get further away from the sun, and like I say, I would suggest 15 or 20 each increase each time. So have a go at that, see how you get on. If you want to take a video of your finished program and share it with us, that would be great, and you might be able to get some extra points from doing that. We do also have an extension activity where you can turn your model into an interactive fact file. So if you want to do that, if you watch the next video, we'll give you instructions on how to do that. Just to show you what we're aiming for, once you've got all of your planets and they've all been coded in, you will end up with something like this that I made earlier, and when you press the green flag, you can see all of the planets moving around, all at speeds relative to the Earth. So you can see that Mercury is a lot quicker, whereas the gas giants are a lot slower. And if you want to view your own program in a bigger screen like that, it's just this button here, and that will take you to full screen. So have a go at that, enjoy, and as I say, please do share it with us on Twitter at Technocamps, and do have a go at the extension activity as well. And there is also a quiz that you can take part in to gain some points. So thank you very much.